Hi, English students. You have made it. You are on the Odyssey. You are on part 2. The section that we're going to read is called 20 Years and I Am Back Again. So let's find out where we are. As a bit of a recap, we know that Odysseus had fought in the Trojan War for 10 long years. During that time, he and his soldiers were away from their family. Their families had no idea where they were, if they had been lost at sea, what was going on. Odysseus's wife Penelope has been there mourning and waiting for her husband to come home. Their son Telemachus has been getting older and older, and he's 10 years old by the time the war ends. Well, we all know what happens after Odysseus leaves Troy. He tries to make it home, but unfortunately, one of the bad adventures that he gets into is his scrape with Polyphemus the Cyclops. And after that, Odysseus is filled with too much pride, hubris, and he begins to kind of taunt Polyphemus and say, hey, look what I did to you, and I brought you down basically to your knees. But we all know in the Greek world, in the Greek belief system, that if you have a lot of pride, hubris, too much pride goes before a fall. So Polyphemus has called out to his father and cursed Odysseus that he should never make it home again. But other gods definitely want to see Odysseus succeed and make it home eventually, and that would be Athena especially. So we know that there are going to be some very bad years. 10 long years of terrible things are going to happen, but eventually Odysseus is going to make it home, but not before he has lost all of his men. So he washes up on the shore of the Phaeacians, and he's been telling his story to the king. Where we begin is that Odysseus has finally left the court of the king of Phaeacia, and he's making it home finally to Ithaca. So let's read the italicized portion, page 43 of your PDF. And remember to have your set of questions open at the same time. As we are going through the story, I will stop and explain things, and you're going to see you'll answer the questions so much more easily. For example, number 1, how is Odysseus able to be returned to his homeland in Ithaca? And what does Athena tell Odysseus about what's been happening while he's been gone from Ithaca? So let's begin. Odysseus has finished telling his story to the Phaeacians. The next day, young Phaeacian noblemen conduct him home by ship. He arrives in his homeland of Ithaca after an absence of 20 years. The goddess Athena appears and informs him of the situation at home. Numerous suitors, that means men that want to marry Penelope, believing Odysseus to be dead, have been continually seeking the hand of his wife Penelope in marriage, while overrunning Odysseus's palace and enjoying themselves at Penelope's expense. They're drinking, they're partying, they're eating up all of Odysseus's crops and animals, right? Moreover, they are plotting to murder Odysseus's son Telemachus before he can inherit his father's lands. Now, Telemachus, who, like Penelope, still really hopes for his father's return, has journeyed now to Pylos and to Sparta to learn what he can about his father's fate. But Athena disguises Odysseus. She kind of uses her magic, and she disguises him as an old, grizzled beggar, and she directs him to the hut of Eumaeus. This was Odysseus's old and faithful swineherder. While Odysseus and Eumaeus are eating their breakfast, Telemachus arrives, and Athena then appears to Odysseus. And here's how she appears. From the air she walked, taking the form of a tall woman, handsome and clever at her craft, and she stood beyond the gate in plain sight of Odysseus. Unseen, though, by Telemachus, she's invisible, unguessed, for not to everyone will the gods appear. So Odysseus sees her, though. Odysseus noticed her, and so did the dogs, who cowered whimpering away from her. She only nodded, signing to him with her brows, a sign he recognized. Crossing the yard, he passed out through the gate to the stockade to face the goddess, and there she said to him, son of Laertes and the gods of old, Odysseus, master of landways and seaways, dissemble to your son no longer now. That means don't lie to him anymore about who you really are, because remember, he's disguised as an old baker. The time has come. Tell him how you and he together are going to bring doom to the suitors in the town. I shall not be far distant then, for I myself desire battle. And saying no more, she tipped her golden wand upon the man. So she touches Odysseus, and making his cloak pure white, and the knit tunic fresh around him. Lithe and young she made him, ruddy with sun, so he's got a tan, his jawline clean, so no beard, the beard no longer gray upon his chin. And she withdrew when she had done. Then Lord Odysseus appeared, and his son was thunderstruck. Telemachus sees how all of a sudden he's no longer a beggar. He's this very handsome, strong man, right? And it says his son was thunderstruck, fear in his eyes, and he looked down and away as though it were a god, and he whispered, "Stranger, you're no longer what you were just now. Your cloak is new, even your skin. You're one of the gods who rule the sweep of heaven. Be kind to us. We'll make you fair oblation and gifts of hammered gold. Please have mercy on us." But the noble and the enduring man replied, this is Odysseus. He says, "No God. Why take me for a god? No, no. I am that father whom your boyhood lacked and suffered pain for the lack of. I am he." Held back too long, the tears ran down Odysseus's cheeks, and he embraced his son. Only Telemachus, uncomprehending and wild with incredulity, he cried out. Now, you have to imagine some stranger comes to you. You've never known your father. You would be rejecting it too, right? So let's go past this picture. "You cannot be my father, Odysseus. Meddling spirits conceive this trick to twist the knife in me. No man of woman born could work these wonders by his own craft unless a god came into it with ease to turn him young or old at will. I swear you were in rags and old just now, and here you stand like one of the immortals." And Odysseus brought his ranging, that means his big, broad mind, to bear. And he's going to try to talk to his son and get him to listen. And he says, "This is not princely, to be swept away by wonder at your father's presence. No other Odysseus will ever come, for he and I are one, the same. His bitter fortune and his wanderings are mine. 20 years gone, and I am back again on my own island. As for my change of skin, that is a charm of Athena, the hope of soldiers. She uses it as she will. She has the knack to make me seem a beggar man sometimes, and sometimes young with finer clothes about me. It's no hard thing for the gods to glorify a man or bring him low." And when he had spoken, down he sat, and then throwing his arms around this marvel of a father, Telemachus began to weep. Salt tears rose from the wells of longing in both men, and cries burst from both as keen and fluttering as those of the taloned hawk. That's a simile, right? Those nestling farmers take before they fly. So you could hear the crying of hawks, but it's like these men crying. So helplessly they cried, pouring out tears, and might have gone on weeping so until sundown, had not Telemachus said, "Dear father, tell me what kind of vessel put you here ashore on Ithaca? Your sailors, who were they? I doubt you made it walking on the sea." And then Odysseus, who had borne the barren sea, says, "Only plain truth shall I tell you, child. Great seafarers, the Phaeacians, gave me passage as they have given other wanderers. By night, over the open ocean, while I slept, they brought me in their cutter, and they set me down on Ithaca with gifts of bronze and gold and stores of woven things. By the gods' will, these lie all hidden in a cave, and I came to this wild place directed by Athena. so that we might lay our plans to kill our enemies. Count up the suitors and let me know what men at arms are there, about how many men. I must put all my mind into it and see if we too by ourselves can take them on, or if we should look around for some help. So Odysseus at this point is asking his son, I've already been warned that there are suitors here on this island, but how many are there? Are we going to be able to take them on? Or are there any people that are still on this island that are loyal to me? No one knows that he's back yet, of course. It's only Telemachus at this point. Telemachus replied, O father, all my life your fame as a fighting man has echoed in my ears. Your skill with weapons and the tricks of war, but what you speak of is a staggering thing, beyond imagining for me. How can two men do battle with a household in their prime? That means there are so many men. For I must tell you that this is no affair of 10 or even twice 10 men, but scores, throngs of them. You shall see here and now. The number from Dilithium alone is 52. So that's 52 already. Picked men with armorers, a half a dozen. 24 came from Same, 20 from Xanthus. Our own island accounts for 12. That means that there are 12 of our own guys that are trying to be suitors, right? High ranked with their retainers. Meaden the crier and the master harper, besides a pair of handymen at feasts. If we go in against all of these, I fear we shall pay in salt blood for your vengeance. You must think hard if you'd conjure up the fighting strength to take us through. So imagine hearing that you are faced with all of these scores of men, and they will fight you to the death because they want to see you dead. They didn't want you to come home to begin with. Odysseus, who had endured the long war and the sea, answered, I'll tell you now. Suppose Athena's arm is over us, and Zeus, her father's. Must I rack my brains for more? In other words, we have the gods on our side. Clear-headed Telemachus looked hard, and he said, Those two are great defenders. No one doubts it. But throned in the serene clouds overhead, other affairs of men and gods they have to rule over. And the hero answered, Before long they will stand to the right and to the left of us in combat, in the shouting when the test comes. Our nerve against the suitors in my hall. So here is your part. So please pay attention to this portion, because Odysseus is going to tell him step by step by step exactly what he wants his son to do. He says, here is your part. At the break of day tomorrow, go home. Go mingle with our princes, the suitors. The swineherd later will take me down a portside trail, a beggar by my look. So I'm going to be all disguised again. I'm going to be all crippled and bent over and hunched and ugly looking, right? And it says, hangdog and old. If they make fun of me in my own courtyard, let your ribs cage up your springing heart. In other words, your heart's going to be pounding and, you're going to want to do something about it. But he says, keep it cool. Don't let on that you know that it's me, right? And it says, no matter what I suffer, no matter if they pull me by the heels or practice shots at me to drive me out, look on and hold down your anger. You may even plead with them by heaven in gentle terms to quit their horseplay, not that they will heed you, rash as they are, facing their day of wrath. Now, fix the next step in your mind. So here's the next part. Athena counseling me will give me word, and I will signal to you nodding. And at that point, round up all of the armor, all of the lances, all of the gear that's left in our hall, and stow it away. So that way the suitors don't have any weapons at all. Stow the lot away back in the vaulted storeroom. When the suitors miss those arms, they're like, hey, where are the swords and the lances and the shields? Then when they question you, he says, be soft in what you answer. In other words, you're going to be cunning and you're going to be sly and you're going to say this, I thought I'd move them out of the smoke. They seemed no longer those bright arms that Odysseus left us with years ago when he went off to Troy. And here's where the fires Here where the fire's hot breath came, they had grown black and drear. One better reason, too, I had from Zeus. Suppose a brawl breaks up when you guys are drunk. You might get crazed and bloody one another, and that would stain your feast and your courtship. Tempered iron can magnetize a man. So you're supposed to lie, say you took them out of the main area because they were getting all tarnished. And also, you don't want any weapons around in case a fight breaks out. Odysseus tells Telemachus, say that, but put aside 2 broadswords and 2 spears for our own use, and 2 ox-hide shields nearby when we go into action. Pallas Athena and Zeus, all provident, will see you through, bemusing our young friends. So kind of being tricky with those suitors. Now there's one more thing. So this is yet another thing that his father tells him. One thing more. If son of mine you are, and blood of mine, let no one hear that Odysseus is about, so you have to keep it a secret. Neither Laertes, don't even tell my father, nor the swineherder here, nor any slave, nor even your mother Penelope. But you and I alone must learn how far those women are corrupted. In other words, we've got to be tricky and find out, are they still loyal to me? And so he says, we need to know if they're corrupted. We should know how to locate good men among our hands, the loyal and the respectful, and the shirkers. Shirkers are people that are lazy, who take you lightly as alone and young. So that is where we will end. Now we know what Odysseus's plan is, how he's going to try to get revenge against the suitors that have come to marry his wife Penelope, and his son Telemachus is going to help.